Hammers strike iron. The clinging sounds of ferrous rubble tingle the ear. The noise is deafening. Clusters of thick, dark smoke emanating from the burning of waste electronic products and other scrap material fill the atmosphere, blurring vision and causing teary eyes. Agbogboloshie, a slum in the center of Accra, Ghana, has achieved notoriety as one of the most polluted slums in the world. The Blacksmith Institute, renamed Pure Earth in 2015, rated the Agbogboloshie e-waste site as among the top 10 most toxic sites in the world. Early settlers arrived in this area in 1981. It has since attracted economic migrants from various parts of the country, typically northern Ghana, who seek employment. Another of Old Fadama's pull factors is its low cost of living. The neighborhood has some of the cheapest rent in the city. Despite having little to do with the generation of e-waste, these low-income inhabitants live the closest to the city's e-waste hub due to the ecological distribution of Accra's general waste management system. Both young and old are engaged in one task or the other in the chain of activities associated with the scrap metal business. From morning to evening, they search through what has notoriously been named as the world's biggest dump site for electronic waste materials, looking for worn-out computers, television sets, and other electronic waste to extract copper and other valuable materials. It is what they do for a living, but first, it feeds them, then kills them slowly. 22-year-old Abdallah has been working on this dump site for the last 6 years. He migrated from the northern part of Ghana to Accra in search of a better life. With a wife and 3 kids, this is the only sustainable way of feeding his family.
This work is deeply dangerous because the work, how you burn the copper, heat the inside. So when you burn finish, after if you go home, you take medicine before you sleep, because you see pain with your body inside.
His story is not entirely different from Abdul Hussein, who also comes from the north. Abdul is fully aware of the dangers he's exposed to, but says he has no other alternative job.
Actually, I know say this one is dangerous, but this work if that one be our work, we can't do it. We can't change different work. But when we see some happy work can help us, then we protect that place where we get work when the smoke no go disturb anybody we like.
What kind of help do you want?
Anyone. If I get anyone I like, or if I get different work where I go leave this one, I can feel good doing it.
This scrap metal dump site is not only a business center for dealers in scrap metals, but also a home for many people. They live and work in this dangerous environment, oblivious of the hazardous conditions they are exposed to daily. The most affected group in this area is children who engage in all forms of work that frowns on the laws of the country. Among the dealers in this scrap metal business are children who should be in school but who sacrifice their future and put their lives on the line. One such child is 14-year-old Memuna, who has been selling sachet water. The laws of Ghana do not permit Memuna to be selling water when she should be in school.
I go school. Capacity is connecting the member Accra.
To Accra now,
Me down pure water.
one Accra.
Me and my sister.
No sister, why?
Oh, I
Memuna and her other female colleagues are exposed to all the ills of living in a community as dangerous as Sodom and Gomorrah, one of the most notorious towns in Accra. Although the laws of Ghana forbid Memuna from engaging in trade until she is of age, nobody seems to care. Child rights activist Brighter Pierre blames the situation on the failure of parents, society and the state.
In every environment where there are no guidelines, children, especially the female child, do suffer more than anybody in that environment. The practice, the behavior, the conduct, how people do things, how people even relate with them in terms of the sexual activities and abuses and all that. They suffer the most. So such environment is not even good to leave a child on their own to define their own life in that context. Otherwise, what we fail to give them as a state, that environment will provide it for them.
Brighter Pierre says the time has come for all stakeholders to consider that education is a right and not a privilege. He believes such children must not be exposed to the kind of danger they are in, and has asked the state to move in and rescue them, since they represent the future of the nation.
In such instances, it is the law that must work, and then how we can enforce the executive to apply the law and what we have to demand from them. I'm just waiting for a day where children would decide to take the nation on, to demand certain things that the state has failed to give them. It has happened in Cote d'Ivoire before. It has happened in other countries, Egypt and other countries before. So we have to take it up and then seek for certain intervention. And I think that I'm hoping that one day somebody will decide to take the state on to demand that it is because of your inability to uphold my right that has made me get to the level in which I am. So I'm waiting for that day.
But not everyone here is illiterate. 20-year-old Akologo Samuel is a JHS graduate. He has been exposed to the burning of electronic waste for 5 years now and is fully aware of the risk he is exposed to.
Lack of parental care, so we don't get awareness. That's why we are here.
Who are your parents?
That north.
Then the north. So do you get money from this?
So.
How much do you make in a day?
It depends on how the work comes. Like today, like you see the rain, there's no work. But if there's other days to rain cannot rain, but work will not be around. So it depends on how the work is coming. It depends on how the people are bringing the coppers, so that they will burn and will pick the others.
But do you realize that this can pose a danger to your eyes and your health?
Yes, we know that.
Do you have a problem with your eyes?
Yes.
What problem?
It seems just like something starts. You know, you say when I'm watching, I'm not what the skin is entering inside our eyes. So that be the problem. If they can help me, so that if I will get a work, that I will do it and I will be benefit on it. I will work.
Would you want to go back to school?
Yes.
Without any protective clothing or tools to ply their trade, they handle the metals with bare hands and burn the electronic waste in a very crude manner that emits poisonous gases into the atmosphere. For most of the young lads here, burning copper and selling is a livelihood for them. On a daily basis, they come here to burn these plastic materials and go sell them. But as you can see right there, the smoke that emanates from the burning of copper and other plastic materials poses a great deal of danger to their health. This practice leaves the area and its surroundings filled with polluted air that exposes the people to health risk and respiratory diseases.
This is also Polyclinic. This is the headquarters of the Ashedi-Keteke sub-metro. We have 6 main zones: English, Adempo, Bukum, Makola, Kolewokon and agbogboloshie areas, Kokomba areas. So this makes up the Ashedi-Keteke sub-metro, and we see both communicable and non-communicable diseases over here. For the communicable disease, the commonest ones we see, it's malaria, typhoid fever, and when we have an epidemic, then cholera too becomes one of our top 5 cases that we see, and respiratory tract infections. These are the commonest cases that we see over here.
The side effect of the scrap metal business is a major concern, impacting on the lives and health of the public, considering the health and environmental consequences. Even though the place is very unhygienic, food vendors and other food sellers carry their wares around for the public to buy and eat. Also, livestock such as cattle, sheep, goats feed on the piles of refuse that are dumped around. These animals are later slaughtered and their meat sold to members of the public. inside this dirty and toxic dump site, it's one of Accra's biggest markets, the Agbogboloshie market. Is made up of women who sell all kinds of vegetables and food items that are exposed to the dangers of the environment. There are no figures to show the number of deaths that result from the dangerous lifestyle in this area, but it is certain that many lives are lost every now and then. A research by the Public Health Department of the University of Ghana on the effects of e-waste on respiratory function amongst e-waste workers engaged in burning at agbogboloshie in 2015 showed elevated levels of lead in the blood and nickel in the urine of e-waste burners. Analysis of the data was based on 22 e-waste burners, whose data on heavy metals revealed the most commonly self-reported respiratory symptoms included easy tiredness and sore throats. The remaining cited cold, chest pains, excessive phlegm. Ben is a public health expert.
You realize that they burn ties among other metals in order to be able to retrieve this copper among other metals. Now what happens is that once the burning is taking place, they are exposed to the fumes that comes from the burning, and one that can actually precipitate respiratory diseases. If the person even has asthma, it can be precipitated. Again, researchers also brought out that all these fumes contain a lot of carcinogens. These are cancer cells. They can actually bring about cancer. So once they are being exposed to all these things, their risk of developing cancers are high, respiratory diseases are high.
Further studies have also been conducted to assess the impact of such environmental waste on maternal health. The results show pregnant women are at great risk of the activities of electronic waste burning.
If a woman is pregnant and exposed to all these fumes, what can happen is that it can have effects on the child, where it can affect the development of the child. So you can give birth to a child who might be have congenital malformations. You can give birth to a child whose weight is not normal. Okay, you can even give birth to a premature child, and all these things are associated to with exposure to these fumes.
Civil Action Network in 2002 calculated that nearly 500 million computers contain 287 billion kilograms of plastics, 716 million kilograms of lead, and 286,700 kilograms mercury, and over 50 constituents from the periodic table such as cadmium, copper, nickel, lead, barium, hexavalent chromium, and beryllium. E-waste, hence, has become both an emerging global environmental health challenge on the one hand and a tremendous business opportunity on the other because of the content of useful metals and other products generated. In Ghana, hundreds of tons of electric and waste products are imported from Australia and Western Europe, the United States, despite clear laws that prohibit such acts. John Parman is acting executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency.
We have got the Act 917, that is the Hazardous and Electronic Waste Control and Management Act in place, where we have putting in measures to collect the eco levy, the eco recycle levy, which is a levy that you pay when you are importing, electrical and electronic gadgets. And this is going to be put into a fund. The account has been opened, and the whole program was launched, first of all in August last year by the Excellency the President himself. And we actually started the collection of the eco levy in November. November 1st, we put in a system to start collecting. There have been some, teething problems with the collection because there was no, custom linkage to make sure that if you don't pay the levy, you won't clear your goods. So there have been some delay in that. If you do not produce an eco certificate to indicate that you have paid the levy, then you cannot clear your goods, your electrical and electronic goods.
It is estimated that about 500 containers of these second-hand electronic products are imported every year. Many of them do not last for a year. These importations go on even though a ban has been placed on the importation of some used merchandise such as mattresses, underwear and fridges, most of which find their way into Abosokai, the home of second-hand products. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly is acutely aware of the environmental health risk and hazards in this site, but they have been reluctant to tackle the problem. The EPA says since 2010, enough efforts have been made to discourage people from burning the electronic waste due to its harmful impact not only on lives but also the environment.
There's no motivation to burn electrical and electronic waste now. Because as we are sitting down here, we have put in place a system where now they are buying the cables from them, even at a rate higher than what they get when they burn them.
There are calls for major stakeholders such as the Environmental Protection Agency, the Customs as well as the Ghana Standards Authority to collaborate to enforce the regulations on dumping of second-hand electronic waste on the market. Mr. Puaman talks about recent measures that have been instituted.
We have come a long way, from 2008 when the first reports started coming about agbogboloshie and how it is a very big dump site. We didn't know the length, and we have been working throughout. That's one of the major programs that we can say as an environmental protection agency we have been able to do. And me personally, I've been involved in this, e-waste matter. Sometimes some of my colleagues, call me by that nickname because it's something which we think we need to do. It was such a menace, and it was, so embarrassing for Ghana, that our name should be associated with such a very bad practice that we are one of the countries in that area. So we have worked very hard, and I think that what they remain is that they plan the agbogboloshie recycling e-waste recycling facility. The model is right down there on the ground floor of our office, and when the president launched it in August last year, that model was also displayed. It's a very nice one. They are going to do everything. Even lorry tires will also be recycled into useful products, and then also refrigerators. Agbogboloshie. The land has been acquired and the model has already been developed.
The Ghana Standards Authority has also expressed worry about the incessant importation of electronic waste into the country under the guise of second-hand goods. These activities are in clear violation of the country's laws. Professor Alex Dodu is Executive Director of the Ghana Standards Authority.
What we have seen as Standards Authority definitely is worrying, and we don't hesitate to paint the picture as it is. That with cables, electrical products, LED lights, irons, hoovers, mowers, the situation is nothing to be proud of. Over the years, Ghana has become a dumping site for several of these. We have started enforcement at the ports of entry, but our market surveillance tells us that the persistence of these on the market is high. At least 50% of all the products you buy will not meet our specifications. This means that these products, one, will drain heavily on the national grid. And the evidence is clear. Most of these will consume twice, 3 times, sometimes 10 times more electricity. People buy a 10 cedi iron, spoils in 2 days, they throw it off. But it doesn't just go away. It's not biodegradable. It wouldn't go into the sun like a leaf. And the act is new, so it will take time for it to be enforced.
There is, however, light at the end of the tunnel. The EPA, with support from government, has secured a facility at agbogboloshie with funding to construct a multi-purpose waste recycling plant which will likely solve the current waste management problem.
We will start the process of sending these things to the recycling plants. As we speak, the Standards Authority, we have in our possession 5 containers of electrical cables which have been seized since 2017 till 2018. Ghana Revenue Authority, the Customs Division, as well as the various local authorities and the EPA and ourselves as GSA have agreed to denature them by recycling. So we are just cutting them off to the recycling plants and we'll publicly denature them. I think we are very clear on this. Ghana will not be a place for dumping electrical products. And to the extent possible, and Parliament has given us full support and have assured us that when new legislation is needed, it will be given, that we should go ahead and clean up the market.
There is a relentless war to rid the country of filth and the government's resolve to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. If this feat is to be achieved, attention has to be given to the proper management of e-waste. Early steps must be taken to protect everyone from the toxic pollution.
With the communicable diseases, we go on air, we do their best. We are going to do a DEBA to talk to them about how to prevent some of these fecal-oral diseases, how to prevent typhoid fever, how to prevent cholera, how to keep themselves away from getting these diseases. We are also going to educate them on the communicable diseases, which we talk to them whenever we do diabetes. We talk to them about hypertension. We talk to them about diabetes. We talk to them about cancers. With the issue of the arsenic poisoning and lead poisoning, that one, it's a bit difficult because that's the occupation in which they find themselves.
Humans and animals competing for electronic waste. The stench from this dump site is non-shaking until government steps in to find a more lasting solution to the management of electronic waste. All of us stand a great risk of danger.